Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Kaba Ilco part number 7075 CB10-26D. It's a rim cylinder. So the part number is really 7075 CB10-26D. It's just the way the part number is broken up to tell you what the components are. The bottom line is it's a pretty typical rim cylinder in the sense that in the sense that it is a rim cylinder. Rim cylinders are used in pieces of hardware, and I believe that it gets its name from hardware that would be installed or applied around the rim of the door. That's what I was told. What would be a rim cylinder? What would be something that uses a rim cylinder? Well, you guessed it, a rim lock. Surface mount slam locks, night latches, deadbolts that are mounted out at the rim. Lots of people make them. Kaba Ilco is one of them. They'll make a slam latch. They'll make deadbolts for installation on doors that swing in or out. And they are installed on the rim or the perimeter of the door. Rim cylinders are also used in exit devices, especially rim exit devices will use rim cylinders. Alarm bypasses will use rim cylinders. The bottom line is it's a type of cylinder construction that allows it to be installed into something, held in with a retaining plate and a couple of screws, and will always have a long tail piece. And those graduation marks that are there are simply to give the idea that you can snap those off. Well, you wouldn't snap them. You would carefully cut them. You're not just bending them and breaking them. The reason you're not is because when that key turns, that cylinder needs to be on its axis, and it needs to rotate exactly accurately on its axis, and not like this if you've bent the rim cylinder. So it needs to turn really smoothly. Now, what's interesting about this cylinder is that it includes the other sort of cylinder bar or tail piece, but this would be the type used in a lazy action sort of scenario. So if you had an application that would so a lazy action is this. Every time that I turn the key, the tail piece moves. Every single time. I can't turn the key without the tail piece moving. Imagine a deadbolt, just a regular deadbolt on your door. If you were to put the key in and throw the deadbolt, now it's locked, and then move your key back and pull it out, well, since the tail piece is moving, it's going to bring the latch bolt back with you. Well, that's not what you want in certain applications, where you would then use what they call a lazy action. There's another term for it, but lazy action is the technical term for it as well. I don't remember. Another manufacturer, maybe Sargent, calls it something else. But this lazy action style tailpiece will allow you to turn the key, throw something, bring it back without dragging the tailpiece back with you, and then pulling the key out. Okay, so it will operate that way. Nothing comes to the top. Well, that's not true. There are deadbolts that take rim cylinders. You can get latch bolts that it's basically nothing other than a large cylinder shell, and then a rim cylinder goes through there. Exit device trim will, if it's a entry or kind of what we'd call a classroom function, meaning it's not a night latch function, the trim itself will operate so that you can lock it, bring the key back, unlock it. Unlock it, bring the key back, now it's unlocked permanently. That kind of scenario. So this, pardon me, the 7075 in this part number specifically means, what I was about to say was this is a 6-pin cylinder. However, it is only pinned 5. So the key blank that is included here, and that we'll get to that part of the part number in a moment. There are only 5 cuts on this key blank, but it can be pinned with a 6-pin blank, which would be fairly common for anything Corbin, PF Corbin, Corbin Russwin. So 7075 is a rim cylinder. We talked about that, the tail pieces, the two different styles. It's drilled 6, pinned 5, okay? Regular rim cylinder. Now the CB, that's code from Corbin, from Kaba, to mean a Corbin 67 Keyway. Now dipping your toe into the blue plastic kiddie pool that you have would be just your regular Keyway sort of company. Dipping your toe into the pool of Corbin Russwin is like dipping it into the Gulf of Mexico. There's a very expansive amount of space in which you need to cover if you want to wrap your head around, 150 years of Keyway development. 150, that might be a little extreme. Maybe 110. That sort of concept. More than that, 125 probably. There are Keyways that go back to literally the 19th century from Corbin Russwin. And, let's back up. From P.F. Corbin, Russell and Irwin, Russwin, Corbin and Russwin have evolved their Keyways over the several and many decades. Fun fact, P.F. Corbin was the lock that was used when the Empire State Building was built, and many other properties as well. So this is a Corbin 67, and we'll switch to the screen view and take a look what that means, I suppose, in a moment. The 10 in the part number literally refers to the tailpiece configuration, and we'll talk about that when we switch to the screen view. The 26D means satin chrome, and we'll show you the options. And that scratched surface you see is just the peel-away protective film over the scalp plate, and that is indeed literally called a scalp plate. Okay, it's a very thin piece of brass that would go over the head of the brass cylinder. Okay, anything that comes after that refers to the keying requirements on the cylinder itself. And let's switch now to the screen view and let's take a closer look at those options. This would sure look like the item that we are working on here. And what's important to know is that we're dealing with a Corbin 67 Keyway. This is a broaching profile of what the cylinder plug looks like when it has been broached. A key would be milled, the cylinder would be broached. And I've actually seen a video online of how they broach cylinders, and it's a really neat process to watch, where they run, a carbide-style toothed type long blade. wouldn't know how to describe it, through a piece of brass, and making multiple movements, and they'll end up with a broached cylinder plug. They show the different tail pieces down here as well. Now, nowhere in here does it say that the Dash 10 is going to include the lazy action. This one did. So be mindful that it would not automatically include a lazy action. However, this one did. But the way I would interpret this would be that it does not automatically include a lazy action tailpiece. Now, a couple of links to manufacturer's page that I want to show you, get you over to. First of all, it's the Kaba Ilco manufacturer's page that's here that I clicked on and opened up this tab. Then there's another one. Click on the word manufacturers wherever it happens to be in the site once you're at the time of you viewing this video. Then you want to find the Corbin Russwin site. So let's go to the Corbin Russwin manufacturer's page first. And I want to talk about the Corbin 67. There's a link on this page called the Corbin Russwin Cylinder Manual. And as you open that document up, this is the one true complete, at least as complete and updated as to the date that it's been last updated. It doesn't have Access 3 in it. It doesn't have Pyramid in it. It certainly has discontinued technology in it, such as their interlocking pin, high security cylinder. However, it's the governing document when it comes to all things Corbin and Russwin related, in respect to their keyways. And as you open that document up and you just start looking at it, it's an introduction, and then it starts to tell you about how to use this manual, key classes, depth systems, etc. Okay, so key classes, you can find out here through the index as well of where to get to. We're dealing with a 67, and that shows up in a couple of different areas for sure. How to use this manual, I would definitely suggest that you read this, because it will give you a history of the key class as well, but tell you what you're dealing with. So we happen to be dealing with an X class. Well, that's really important to know it's X class for reasons of simply understanding how the depths of the key run. What is 0 shallow or is 0 deep? Well, in an X class, it's deep. 0 is like a 10 cut. It also will tell you the other related keyway classes and how they differ from their other keyway classes. As you continue to scroll through, you will get to the page that will show you the X class, okay, that you can do in a non-System 70 or pre-System 70 and a System 70. A non-System 70 or pre-System 70 means in 1970 they went from the non-System 70, which they didn't call it then, but they converted to a System 70. What that meant was they went from a two-step parity to a single-step. Well, I don't know if parity is the right word. They went from a two-step system to a single-step system. And that's a paradigm shift in terms of how you would pin this material. The hardware itself is compatible in either pre or System 70, but the way by which you go about pinning it is inherently different, substantially different, in fact. And as you continue to scroll through, you'll find the manufacturer's attempt to paint a tapestry for you so that you can enter this world and navigate it successfully. They will have conversation. This page talks about how to divide the key so that you can generate different change keys, master keys, grandmaster keys in a system. But what I'd like to do is to let you know that if you work in the world of Corbin Russwin, getting into this in this catalog specifically would be absolutely irreplaceable in terms of not only it being available as a resource, but understanding it as the guiding principle by which you can navigate this material. So we were able to scroll down to where we can find a history of the 67 series, and it will give you a little bit of history on it. The 67 replaced the 27 as the stock Keyway in 1936, and you can continue on reading. It was part of a small multiplex structure. Okay, there's even going to be some depth and spacing charts that will be further, or depth and spacing data that will occur further in the manual. Here we go. So we're looking for two because they can do it in pre-System 70 or System 70. So we're looking for Corbin X class, System 70. So if you're dealing with a keying structure after 1970, this would be your depth and spacing data. Here talks about the different pins you can use. And then generally on the next page, there would be the opposite, or the pre-System 70. And here it is. A two-step increment progression, single-step increment progression on System 70. So that document is incredibly irreplaceable when it comes to understanding what you're dealing with. And through this document, you'll be able to approach Corbin Russwin much more successfully. They will talk about how to key locks, how to pin their interchangeable core, how to pin their interlocking M-Heart, what they had as high security at one point. They'll talk to you about pinning master ring as well, which was a PF Corbin, a gentleman about 1889 or so, patented the Corbin, the master ring cylinder. Corbin obviously purchased that cylinder from that patent from him, or however it worked. And they still make master ring today, 130 years after its original patenting. But this document is irreplaceable. So you want to talk about Corbin 67? Well, that's the document to start with. Corbin Russwin Cylinder Manual. And since we're on that page, the Corbin Russwin page, a couple of things. A link to the full product category is here. The manufacturer's website is here. We're not doing a Corbin Russwin video, but just to dovetail into Corbin Russwin, since this is a Corbin Russwin system this is obviously working in. Archival Corbin catalogs. You want to see what Corbin was doing in 1895? There's the link to the 1895 catalog right there. And if you did do a little deeper dive into Corbin Master Ring, as I did, you can read my article here and my accompanying video there. Now, over to the Kaba Ilco page, we're going to open up the brass cylinder manual. And that document's going to allow us to dissect the part number. And pretty early in the catalog is where you'll do that. So this is how you dissect the part number. 7075 CB, the tailpiece, the color, any keying. So we have a 7075, and it tells us that it's a 5-pin cylinder with screw cap. That's true, but it's drilled 6. It will have 6 chambers in it. Now the CB is right here in their table of keyways. Two things are happening here. They tell you it's a Corbin 67. That's their code. But another interesting thing that they'll give you here is the part number for the key blank that works in that. 1001 EN. Okay. Now another fun little fact. on the Corbin Russwin, pardon me, on the Kaba Ilco manufacturer's page, you find the key blank catalog. So if you fire that up, it's 400, 500 pages of key blanks. The section 2, which I think is the purple section, there we are, will get you all of the North American door locks. Meaning there's no automotive and there's no bit or barrel keys inside of here. The point is, if you did a Control F on your keyboard or a find function for 1001 EN, you're going to find all of the instances where that key blank comes into play, and namely, it's going to come into play in terms of it being in a cross-reference sheet. So the 1001 EN is going to convert to a they convert it to several other manufacturers: Jet, Silka, Orion, etc. Star. But they will give an easy number for it. Cole as well. Curtis. CO7. That's an ESP number. Ilco EZ, they have it as an, well, it's an R. Let's try this. Further back in the catalog, let's do a find function here for 1001 EN. Yeah, here they are. Okay, so further in the cylinder manual, they're going to tell you that Ilco part number is 1001 EN. It has an Ilco EZ number of C07, and that will actually be stamped on the key, no doubt. And if we do a C07 search in our catalog, we will find all of the matches to it. Okay. So let's go up to Corbin. It's all alphabetical in section 2. I was hoping to be able to more easily find it. All right, section 2 is alphabetical, and I'm just scrolling up to get to the Corbin area. And as we scroll through the Corbin section and just scanning, I'm actually just scanning for the bow of the what the bow of the blank looks like. 1001 EN is right there. A CO Charlie Oscar 7. Now, why that didn't show up in my Control F, I can't be sure, but you at least now know where to, what the part number, what the numbers are that you're looking for, and then how to find it in this catalog. And that's what the key blank looks like, as well as what that broaching looks like as well. And the reason that knowing what that key blank is, well, you might say, well, yeah, I want the rim cylinder, but I also want, some extra blanks, okay? And that's how you can go about doing that, finding more about information about that key blank. More Corbin Russwin materials buried here down below. And you'll note, if you were studying this, you'll see that a prefix A and a prefix L goes from 6 to 7 pin. So clearly this is a 5-pin cylinder because it doesn't have one of those prefixes. Okay, just handy information that will, it's liberating to know as much as possible of what you're dealing with. Okay, let's see, back to the catalog here. So we know we're dealing with a CB, a 1001 EN, or a CO7. Lots of other keyways available here as well, though. Yale, Sargent, Schlage, obviously. Russwin, Weiser, Lorry, others, okay, that are here. Camera tailpiece, we talked about that. We're dealing with a 10, long standard. Why that lazy action is in there, hard to say. These cams belong to mortise locks, which wouldn't apply, of course, to our rim cylinder. Then as we continue to move through, we're going to get to the finish and then the keying. Well, in terms of finish, they can do all sorts of finishes. Polished brass, your brasses, your bronze, your chromes, polished, satin, they have black, they have stainless. Now, not all of this is stock, not at all. You know, satin chrome will be stock, maybe some satin brass, polished brass, sometimes satin bronze, Duracolor brown, which is that 46 finish, that is generally stock. But you're dealing with a Corbin 67 key, so it's more likely that you're going to need satin bronze rather than stainless steel. Only thinking that you're dealing with something that was done, you know, what did the manual say? It was the stock Keyway in 1936, so you're dealing with a system that was introduced pre-World War II. So it's likely the facility that you're using the cylinder in is going to be pre-World War II. Doesn't have to be, but it can definitely be in that range when a Corbin 67 was the stock Keyway for PF Corbin. The rest of this manual is handy. It will allow you to look at part numbers, really. Unfortunately, this version of this catalog, this 2018 version, is a lot less graphical. A lot less images are involved in this. Its predecessor had more pictures and more drawings that were helpful. Unfortunately, this does not have that, but it does act as a numerical, alphabetical listing. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Okay, in conclusion, it's a rim cylinder, a very typical piece of equipment. Corbin 67, those are everywhere. It's going to have the direct code engraved on the bow. 41212. What's interesting, though, is I'm quite positive X-Class was written tip to bow. So they're writing that bow to tip is how they're writing that, obviously. I'm pretty sure Corbin X-Class was tip to bow. So Kaba Ilco is doing it from the shoulder stop down to the tip of the key. But nonetheless, it's engraved on there. 2 original look-alike blanks, and if you recall, we said that our blank would be a 1001 EN and that the easy number was C07. And while it's difficult to see on the camera here, let's see if we can get the camera to focus for us. There you go. You see a little C07 right there. 1001 EN. Now you know the key blank as well. Now, what else is included? A cylinder ring is included. Allow you to finish that off or trim that off should you need to. What would require this? A rim lock. A night latch would definitely use a cylinder ring. Very typical. You're also going to get the retaining plate along with the breakaway screws. Again, don't break those away. Carefully cut them. This will certainly handle, probably up to a door that's at least 2 3/4 thick. I mean, given the length of the tail piece, you'll be able to get that through really any size, any thickness of door that you'll encounter is what you'll be able to do. The screws and then that retaining plate that are there. Now, the name Kaba Ilco is quite synonymous with cylinders. In fact, they are the largest North American manufacturer of OEM cylinders. Very high quality product. The reason it's high quality, well, not only because they manufacture high quality products, however their manufacturing processes permit that. Accurate control over machining processes, tolerances, whatnot. But the material is made of brass. Almost everything they do in cylinders is made of a brass-based material, so it's a high-quality base material. So you'll be able to achieve tight margins, tight tolerances, so that when you're keying the material, it pins up very well, very reliably, very predictably. It's not a zinc die-cast plug or something of that nature. Solid brass plugs, solid brass cylinder housings. Very nice quality material. I prefer to use Kaba Ilco, and I do every instance that I'm able to, and I don't when those instances occur that I can't, like maybe the type of keyway that I need to run through the cylinder generally will keep me from that. Sometimes the length, they will only 1.5 inches is the only cylinder that you'll probably bump into in stock. And while they'll do longer cylinders, that material will be made to order. If it comes to longer mortise cylinders that you need, reach out to us. We can certainly help you with that. If you have any questions on the 7075 CB10 and a 26D finish or any other Kaba Ilco product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.